Lunge mechanics. First thing we're going to talk about is where to put your feet during a lunge. The most common mistake I see is most people start real narrow, or when they step to get into their lunge, they're real narrow and they're fighting like they're on a balance beam the whole time. You want to go a little wider, probably even wider than hip width apart to start with, giving you better access to your hip muscles and taking some of the balance out of the equation. Since you're already going to be in a little bit of a staggered stance, the wider you are, the more stable you'll be. The more narrow you are, the harder it's going to be to balance before you even try and start moving up and down. Also be mindful, just because your feet start in one position here, you also need to stay in that line when you step, making sure that your foot doesn't cross over and end up making it narrow when you step. That won't be very helpful for you. The other big markers of your feet, besides just width, are how far to step back or forward. So on stepping back, I like to think about tucking your tail, squeezing your butt, reaching my leg back as far as I can, squeezing my butt, and wherever my ball of foot lands, that's my lunging position. Usually it's much smaller than most people think. Most people are trying to go super wide here and hanging out on their hip flexor. We want active muscles controlling all of our lunging position. So I'm going to squeeze my butt, I'm going to step back, I'm going to find my marker. Just like previous drills of practice, we want that back heel up all the way, pressing into ball of foot. I want to feel the back of my hamstring glute lock in to tuck my tailbone under, creating this nice line where my shoulders, hips, and knees are basically all stacking over each other. I don't have my butt back. My chest isn't going forward. If anything, you want to feel like you're leaning back a little bit. Stomach's locked in tight. You're pulling your elbows into the front of your sides, so your shoulders are down, engaging the core. From there, you want to feel like you're pulling yourself straight down. So I want to feel like the back of my leg is working here. I'm not trying to work the quad. I'm trying to keep that heel up tall, work the back of my leg there. Front of this leg is working. Then from there, I can press back up with both legs. We're attempting to get a 50-50 weight split between the front and the back leg. When most people lunge, they're lunging about 80-20 and using this big extension to get up. For our lunges, we want to be upright because I want to have the ability to switch directions, change, take a step, pivot, whatever I need to do without all this extra trunk movement. So, setting up again, stepping back, butt tight, heels up tall, elbows into my sides, pulling my belly in, tucking the tail in. Now I feel a lot of tension in the back of this leg. Everything in my upper body's braced. Now I'm ready to actively pull myself down to the floor. So actively thinking about pulling myself down wherever I can hold that position, then pressing back up. When you're learning the lunge, you want to go slow as you pull down because a lot of people will start going here. We don't want that position. So even if your lunge is only a few inches, that's great. As long as you work on keeping that hip extended, using the back of that leg to do the lunge, eventually you will get down to the ground. Now, if you need a little bit of assistance to start, that's perfectly fine. You don't want to stay with this assistance forever. You do want to work your self away from it, but initially to help you find some of that muscle activation, it can help. So again, a door hinge or a firm object that you can press into. Make sure your hands are somewhere by belly button to sternum level, so somewhere right out in front of you. And we're just going to use it to enforce the same mechanics that we've already been working on. You want this lined up right in your center. It can be a door hinge, whatever it is. Just make sure that your elbows can be to the fronts of your sides while you press down into it to help lock in lats, core, and to help you find that posterior tilt. From there, you'll just keep pressing into that object as you start going down into your lunge and then pressing back up. Whole time, try not to use your arms for too much of that stability, but giving pressure down so to help you with your activation. Activation is going to be the big key here rather than finding assistance. If you're constantly using the assistance device to go up and down, you'll never be able to work yourself away from it. When you're pressing it down, you're helping yourself find this extra activation. Since the body is one piece, if we keep the upper body more stable and locked in, it'll make it easier to find the stability in the lower body and eventually work you up and down into a nice clean lunge.